Thank you. So we're going to start with some introductions. I'm Hannah Rechtschaffen. I'm chair and member at large. And I'll pass.
Eric Tward, Director of Planning and Development.
Greta Schwachman, Director of Food Services for the schools. Amy Kaling, Director of Community and Economic Development.
Anyone up there who wants to go?
George Tolimpsis. Sorry, Marlo. I'm the planning board rep and the vice chair of the committee.
Marlo Warner, Department of Public Works.
Oh,
Unmute, Nancy.
unmute.
Of course, I'm the hazard member at large.
Wonderful. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for being here. So our next agenda item is approval of the July meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Excellent.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Any discussion or notes? Did I do that wrong? Then we approve and then we do
You
discussion.
typically have
You
discussion
get the
first.
second, then you get a
Oh, we did
discussion,
that wrong.
and then you take the final vote. Yeah.
There. All right. Well, then I'm going to take that to mean there's no discussion, and excellent. They were really wonderful meeting minutes. I know Mary's not here to get the compliment, but
Yeah,
they were
Very
so
thorough.
thorough. They were awesome. Wonderful. So the next item on our agenda is the Conway School student project idea, which Eric is going to present about.
Yeah, this should only take a few minutes, and it really started with Amy. She had a conversation with CJ Lammers of the Conway School, and they're looking for a winter project. And they thought of Greenfield, and they thought of or probably Amy steered them toward the 2014 Sustainable Master Plan.
They floated it.
They floated it, okay. And so my monthly meeting with the mayor, we talked about that, and I wanted to get her take on it. And she thought that perhaps a chapter or two could be updated, not the entire plan. Based on the budget that they would have, we could probably do a chapter or two with them doing it with little to no cost to the city. The mayor was going to look at our unrestricted funding, but never got back with me on the availability of that. But I think that we would be able to handle the amount that they would need if they actually do charge the city some funding. And the mayor had an idea of perhaps economic development would be the chapter to concentrate on, and possibly the land use section of the master plan. And she also mentioned that maybe they could highlight what was already done in terms of our implementation plan and make that stand out what we've already accomplished in our master plan. So I wanted to bring this to the committee and get your feedback on whether we should give it a go. And I can talk to the mayor and she'll make the final choice decision. But I think I support the idea of a chapter or two, and I support the idea of economic development and land use as being those chapters. The land use could concentrate on housing as an element. I don't think there's a separate chapter on housing. No. So it could fall under the land use section. I want to hear your feedback, and so I can get back to the mayor on whether we should proceed.
I have a question.
Sure.
I love this idea too, and I think it's a great thing to engage students in. I'm curious if a lot of the planning process is done through public engagement. So I'm curious if this would be also encouraging of the students. Hello, sir, welcome.
Hi.
We have a super quorum now. We will get to introducing you in just a minute. Would this be a sort of internal project where the students are working directly, let's say on housing, for example, with the committee as advisors or with the planning department as advising, or would this be in part to help the students kind of see the public process too? Like how big do we imagine the
You mentioned
process
a
being?
couple of public forums as
Eric,
part of it.
I'm sorry, interrupt, but since Jonah just walked in the room and I know he's interested in this, could you just say a sentence or two about what we're talking about so
Sure.
he can participate?
Yeah.
So we're talking about a potential update to our master plan.
Yeah.
the Conway School is interested in doing a winter project. They do a winter project and a spring project, and they felt CJ Lammers is the person that at the school that arranges these projects. And she thought of Greenfield and doing the master plan. So right now we're talking about potentially updating the economic development chapter and the land use chapter, which could concentrate on housing as well. And perhaps something that would highlight what we've already implemented as part of the update.
Yeah, great.
So we're trying to get feedback on whether that's a good idea and whether we should move forward.
Yeah,
It'll be little to no cost to the city.
yeah, awesome. Sounds great.
Well, the cost thing I gotta verify, there could be a cost. I wasn't really clear with CJ on the cost. She mentioned something about their recovery point is 26,000. I don't know exactly what that means, whether they do $26,000 worth of work as a student, and if it's over that we pay, or if we pay up to $26,000 worth of work. I'm not really sure.
We pay up to 26,000 or 27,000, but she also said that she's been in touch with, I think Greenfield Savings Bank, not Greenfield Co-op, who is looking for a project to get involved with, and she's thinking they might have some funding capacity. And I think she also said if funding would be a deal breaker for us, that they would really like to see this project happen. And so to get back to her, well, I think 26,000 is their ideal. I get the sense that there's a fair amount of flexibility.
Good.
So students get paid for this? Who's getting?
No.
The school itself.
Yeah. And I have done it through work. I've had them do a spring project, which they were desperate at the time. So a few years ago, they were desperate for projects and they gave it to us for a bargain deal. So I think it was like $2,000 or something like that. So I think they are flexible. They need projects, so.
Yeah, because I'm not sure if we have
Putting them a favor,
26.
That seems like should be.
Except I will say well, I think we are doing them a bit of a favor, but what I've seen of their work is incredibly professional. This isn't like college
high school
freshmen.
students?
These are graduate students in like
Okay.
landscape
I'm
design.
thinking like
Yeah.
high school students. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
no,
like,
no, these are
I'm
master.
gonna pay them. Like I've seen high
No.
school work. It's
No, this is
like-
master program.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Ah.
All right. This is, sorry. I'm not familiar with this school or this program. Where are they based?
They were,
Northampton.
they're in Northampton, but they were Ashfield? Conway, that's why it's
They were in
called
Conway,
Conway.
then East Hampton, and then now North.
And now
What's
Northampton.
the focus of the program?
Landscape architecture.
Okay. This is making more sense to me. I'm sorry. I guess I needed more context on that.
And we've done several projects with them. I have as planning department. This would be like the fourth project we've done with them.
Wow.
They did the Vets Mall. They did
Oh,
possible reuse of the Bendix site. They did possible reuse of where the old school was in Pleasant Street, where the senior center is now, where the John Zahn Community Center is. What else?
They
And
did
they did the
parking.
Main Street streetscape project in the Fisk Park, Avenue Park came out of that. So they've done a lot of work for the city, and some things have actually been implemented and built and up and running, like the park.
George?
Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you. So this is the Conway School of Design you're talking about.
Yes.
Thank you. I hadn't been totally clear on that. And so I'm a little confused why I would think they would do something or focus on an area more tuned in with landscape design than economic development or housing. So it would help me to understand why that would be something that would dovetail with their training and specialization.
Good question. By them approaching us and wanting to update our master plan, that includes many chapters, including economic development. So we would assume that they would be able to do that. But perhaps they could only concentrate on a few chapters, like land use and environment would be really the biggest one that would dovetail with what they do as landscape architects. But hopefully they can do all the chapters if we wanted all the chapters done. But I could get clarification on that.
I mean, we actually incorporated in the master plan, if I'm remembering correctly, their suggested design for the Fisk Avenue, right, Nancy? That was referenced in the master
Yes.
plan because that had been done previously. That proposal had been made or the design had been created. So that's what I'm wondering about, how to find a synergy between their particular expertise and components of the master plan. Around parks or assessment of, how public spaces could be used better, or other things like that. So
That's
thanks.
why we're having this discussion. So that's great
Yep.
points.
Mhm. Nancy?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to work with them, and thanks, George, for clarifying that. I agree that their skills, the land use chapter would be great, and as you say, housing is certainly part of land use. So that aspect of housing anyway, so it certainly would fit. And then, of course, open space would be fabulous. And there's some other, it'd be good to ask them about the economic development. I think I remember the Conway School working with Bernardston on their master plan. I would have to, I haven't looked at their projects recently, but we could do a little research on that and, or ask them about recent projects, and they certainly have a sustainability orientation, which I'm particularly excited about, that they would bring that aspect to whatever project we might choose to ask them to focus on.
Yeah, and I'll call on myself, as George says. I love it. I will underscore and say that Mary, in her email, knowing she wasn't going to be here, did say that she also would love to see a focus on sustainability. So I feel like if that's part of their program knowledge base, it's certainly a high priority for us, as we'll see when we get back to the spreadsheet. I feel like there's a lot of focus on sustainability right now. We've talked about green infrastructure. I wonder if there are overlaps in what they're learning with that that could potentially be beneficial. And it does sound like, because it's a time-bound project, it's probably better to choose a chapter or two and not have them sort of touch on multiple chapters. But if there are things they're interested in that are in other chapters, you don't want to hold them back. I want to circle back really quickly because, Eric, you were starting to talk about potential inclusion of public sessions.
Yes, she mentioned that there would be a couple of public forums involved with this update, whatever we choose to do.
Great.
Yeah, I'd speak to that. And actually, Jonah, maybe it sounds like you've worked with them closely at one point, but certainly that public interface is one of the skills that they are working on at that school. I know, Jonah, if you want to
Yes,
add
they
to
did.
that,
For our project, they had 2 community events. The first one was awesome. The second one wasn't. So they're students, it's not a guarantee to be perfect or even great. But they did it. Overall, it was a great project. Their second community forum was sort of a bust, but otherwise it was great.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Can you say more about what happened at the second community forum?
It was just very similar to the first, and a lot of people came expecting something different. The community members that came, including like city councilors and others, and like city councilors walked out and left early, just to kind of felt like it was a waste of time because it wasn't very different from the first one. Like they were just checking a box if we have to do 2 of these, as opposed to advancing the project. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
All right.
I was going to say, my experience with working them and Eric, we worked on the parking streetscape stuff with them, is that they had one meeting that was gathering information from us from their client about what they wanted. And then they came back with ideas and presented the ideas and asked for feedback on the ideas. And then they went away and vanished, kind of. This is true. That's my memory of it. But then the end product was delivered, but there wasn't a forum around the delivery of the end product so much. Does that sound right, Eric?
Yeah, it does. And but the way she described it, CJ, it seems like this is different than their typical spring or winter project. Spring projects were supposed to be like $650, and the winter ones, a couple thousand. And there were things like that. This seems above and beyond what they normally do. So I gotta get more clarification from CJ. It's probably gonna be a different process than we saw in that streetscape project.
George?
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to reinforce a couple things people mentioned. I really appreciate Hannah you mentioning about the public involvement. I'm glad to hear that's something they would assume is incorporated in this project. And I think green infrastructure, we've been, talking about resiliency and, increasing intensity of weather. And so it's can't hurt to, it's been quite a number of years since almost a decade since the plan. So it would be nice to have that component, green infrastructure as part of resiliency, have that focused on. And I just would be interested in getting the cost clarified, obviously.
Yes.
But just want to, thanks.
What does it look like to have it updated, and then how will that look if like half of it is updated and I mean, I don't have it right in front of me, and you all have spent more time with the plan than I have, but were we talking about updating at one point, and then what was our holdup? Like, what makes this the right time to do it and do part of it?
Can answer that. Cost. So if we were to do this update ourselves, there was a mass planners listserv messages going around recently. The costs for updates range from, I don't think anything was under 100,000, went up to 150,000 for updates. Most of these plans were 2000, 2005. Our plan is really new compared to all these people that wanted to update their plans recently on mass planners listserv. But typically you want to do an update every 10 years if there's significant things happening in your community. Is there significant development pressure? Is farmland getting eaten up? The things like that that would require a community to definitely want to update their plan to be up to date. That's not happening in Greenfield, other than the climate change issue, which is happening over the whole planet. So cost is the main issue. Where would we get that money? There are no grants for master plan updates. The only reason we were able to do the 2014 plan is because the Franklin Regional Council of Governments got a grant to do their regional plan, and they got to choose a community to do a local plan. We were that community.
Oh.
Otherwise, it would have been on the capital budget for another 10 years.
That's interesting.
So normally you work with like consultants who carry out this process and write it up. That's how it works?
Oh, yeah, you definitely hire consultants. Very few planning departments, I've seen them do it in-house. Regional planning agencies tend to do master plan updates for the communities. Some of them do. When I worked in Keene as the regional planner there, we did several master plan updates, and I did one for Greenfield, New Hampshire. But typically they hire consultants, do an RFP, request for proposals with a very detailed set of goals and cost budget and what exactly you want in your plan. And then a consultant comes back with their proposals, and then you choose which is best for your community. That's what we did. We hired VHB last time, and they did a great job. People tout out about our plan all the time. But you ask a very good question. How would we do one or two chapters, and what about the rest of it? How would that look? When VHB finished our master plan, they gave us a bunch of files that I have no idea how to access. I don't even have the software to open them up. So how would we do that? I don't know.
We get them to do the whole thing as like a multi-part project? Like, would they work with us over a series of years to?
Probably not.
do it? No.
I don't think they would do that. They usually want to spread their projects out to many communities as they can. So the only reason I mentioned economic development, because Mayor Wiedegardner thought we focused definitely heavily on energy and that type of stuff, and she would like us to focus on a different chapter like economic development or land use.
And not on energy, you're saying?
Not as so much on
Not
energy,
as
because
much
we've
on
done a lot of that. Carol has done a lot, we've done a lot, and she feels like we need to concentrate on other sections of this master plan.
Okay.
That was the mayor's opinion.
Interesting. Nancy?
Two thoughts. One, I talked with Carol Collins pretty extensively before she left because I wanted to get clear from her about what she saw as next steps for Greenfield. And I learned that she has been working closely with FERCog on a plan which is about to be released like with any week now, called the Municipal Net Zero Plan for the City of Greenfield.
Oh.
So we have an energy, I'm so excited, can't wait to see it. We have an energy plan coming, going to be released really soon. And I'm going to go back to this thing about, doing part of it. It's interesting. I think it was at our last meeting that we were talking about that very thing. And Mary, I think, brought up the question of, could we do just part of it and focus on resilience as the lens through which we were doing it? And so I feel like this kind of fits in with that. And certainly the land use piece does. And I totally understand why the mayor wants to focus on economic development, because we've been, that's what MJ and they've been focused on for so much, the downtown stuff. So, but I guess the final thing I would say is a question that I would ask is, is it better to focus, would we get a better product if we focused on land use only and didn't go into economic development?
I think we would. It would be better.
Does it sound like this energy net zero plan that's coming out would in some ways be an updated version of the energy?
Definitely. I saw the plan and I helped finalize it with, I forgot the gentleman that she hired. Forgot his name, but Caitlin Bond Smith's husband is the person she hired, and it's now part of it. Yes. And we helped Carol finalize that plan. It's going to be a great plan. You'll like it. And it is an update.
Yeah.
And it has an implementation table on exactly our next steps and what we can do. So that's,
That could be that
Great.
chapter.
yep.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like you're right. That could be the updated chapter for that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I wonder, sounds like the access to the files is surmountable though. Like we have,
Oh, yes.
we have the files.
We have the
So
file.
we could update some chapters, replace them, just have an updated date in there and keep the other ones that aren't updated logistically.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could get IT to help us figure out
Yeah.
how to open up
Yeah.
files.
Yeah.
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 It's not insurmountable, of
Yeah.
course.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah.
All right. George?
Yeah, this does sound reasonable. I like this idea of, rather than, the pretty daunting and, as Eric said, expensive task of trying to update the entire plan, having this piecemeal approach could be effective based on opportunity we have for other resources being available. So this is very encouraging, actually.
Yeah.
And who
it
knows
would
what
be great
opportunities
to-
will come up next year. Maybe another chapter would make sense with some
Right.
other opportunities. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So land use, good.
And to
So-
figure out how to incorporate it into our section of the website, or and to make these materials accessible to all of us on the committee to familiarize ourselves with them, like the energy update. That'd be great.
Yeah. Great. So it sounds like there are a couple things to clarify around cost, but I think I'm hearing a sort of general desire to move forward with at least gathering more information and maybe saying to CJ, with this and that information, we're on board. So, all right, I'm seeing thumbs up. Excellent. At this point, are we in a position to make a motion to say we're going to move forward? Are there some contingencies we want to outline around cost or anything like that? Or do we want to kind of say that we want to make a motion to approve the gathering of more information towards some action? George?
I thought Eric implied that this would be, that our committee wouldn't be making a decision about this, that it would be the
Would
mayor
not
making
be.
a decision and that the mayor was looking for input from our committee. Is that accurate?
Okay,
That is correct. So, but you
Okay.
could take a vote to that, yes,
We're
you
into
support, and, that we could forward to the mayor.
okay.
Say,
Thank you
this
for that
committee voted,
clarification.
and we support it, we want to do this, and then the
Okay.
mayor will fund it.
Excellent. So does anyone want to make a motion to that effect?
I'll take a
Nancy?
stab at it. That we would like to support the idea of working with the Conway School, and our recommendation would be to focus on a single chapter, the land use chapter, and see, what else did we talk about that was important? Were those there were some other questions that came up that we wanted to clarify. Can people remember what those were?
Well,
What, public
we-
forums, whether there'll be public input and public forums?
Oh, well,
Mhm.
That was one thing.
ensure public, I guess I assume, but more detail about the public forums, that would be great.
and I think green infrastructure / resiliency was another focus we were talking about. And I would, friendly suggestion, include Conway School of Design in the full name of the school in the motion.
I think,
Just so
George,
it's clear.
they renamed it now to just the Conway School.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
Got it. Great. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you, Jonah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. That passes unanimously. Eric, thank you so much for bringing this to us. Amy, for kicking it off with a conversation with CJ. And I guess we'll wait for an update. Jonah,
I'm out tomorrow, otherwise I
Second.
definitely would get the update tomorrow, but Monday,
great.
work right on it, you guys get an update.
Right. Okay, amazing. 5:47.
I said it wouldn't take long, I'm sorry.
Totally fine. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is getting back into the priority spreadsheets. In the last 40 minutes that we have, we're trying so hard to kind of get through this. So can we
Share my screen.
Yes, that would be awesome. And I hope it's okay because I'm gonna be updating the spreadsheet unless someone else wants to be updating the spreadsheet. Is it okay to have in the meeting minutes that we just moved to the spreadsheet since we'll have so much content in there? Or do we need meeting minutes that say the things that are getting said as long as they're in the spreadsheet? Is that sufficient?
We look to George.
George? Did that question make any sense?
I'm not quite sure what you mean. Yeah.
So, in the meeting minutes, can I
Yeah.
sort of put a line in there that says we're moving to working on the spreadsheet? And from then on, the notes that we're taking are in the spreadsheet itself as opposed to captured in the minutes? Or do the minutes have to continue to kind of be robust around the discussion?
I would think the minutes should note particular topics or areas.
Yeah,
But
okay,
please understand, minutes do not have to be comprehensive. But it would be good that it's not just a blank of, see the spreadsheet. I
okay.
think just flagging it and say this item was discussed or that
Want me
item
to update the
topic was discussed.
Okay, Amy's gonna update the spreadsheet in real time.
Real time.
So action items, priorities organized by status is where we are, and if we scroll down a bit, we will come to our next sort of empty.
Is the action or keep going?
I would keep going, because sometimes, yeah, so yeah, I think we're right around there. So, gosh, it feels like a long time since we talked about this. So just to recap in the briefest way, which is not my forte, but I'm gonna try. The spreadsheet is just really taking a look at the priorities that were put forward by this committee as it is now with the current folks on it. And we have been going through it and now talking specifically about action items, some of which it is totally acceptable to say, another group or organization is working on this and let's move forward. I think what we're really looking for are action items that this committee feels strongly about taking or facilitating. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Did you
Okay.
ever save that piece of paper that had, wasn't there like a big piece of poster paper that was all the possible responses?
Yes, but I don't know where it is. We've gone through so many iterations of getting through this, and even at our last meeting, we kind of realized that this was not exactly even what Jonah was originally asking for, and so we got into this whole process. But it has been very helpful. It seems that it's been very helpful. And I will just say that it also dovetails with, I think, our conversation about updating the master plan, because out of this, we've realized a lot of things that are in motion, which has felt really wonderful. But we've also realized some things I think that have not been touched on. And so it's allowed us to look a little bit at, like, if we were to update, what needs updates and what sections, like I would throw out there super casually that the education section has not really had a lot of progress and we've not really talked about it a lot. So it's an interesting section. Does it need updates or does it need attention? So I think this process has been helpful, but laborious to be sure. So I can't remember if we were reading. So, okay. And we're in economic development, which is good because we were just talking about kind of, what would updates to this section look like? And I think there is a lot around economic development. So the comment was motivating more homeowners and landlords to insulate, upgrade homes, and so on. And there were questions about funds being available, and focusing on underserved residences.
Wasn't this one that Carol felt was not appropriate for us? And that
Yes.
there are other groups focused on that?
Yes.
I was gonna
Yes.
say the same thing.
Yep. All right. So maybe in action, we write like not our thing or no, not appropriate. God, without Carol, man, she has so much knowledge.
This is Nancy. Can I say something about
Yeah.
that? I was really surprised to see that the job description, which is now being posted for Carol's position, includes working with the general public. And the other thing that has changed is that there's a lot of money coming down the pike from IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. So all of a sudden, there's some doors open. I think the role that this committee should play or should play is to be supportive of the urgency and the need and to do this, and that there are opportunities, not necessarily, I mean, like last year, Greenfield did 2 workshops for homeowners around, or I shouldn't say just homeowners, but residents, about updating their homes and how to go about finding the money to do that. But so I don't know, things have changed somewhat. I don't know if she would, yeah.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on
Yeah.
new funding and.
I don't know if Nancy ever told you guys about the grant that we got in 2010, that Nancy filled out the application for, and we got the grant. Remember that one, Nancy? 2010?
Absolutely. Energy
Yeah, that-
Smart Homes, it ran for 3 years.
Energy Smart Homes, and it was all about educating people about Mass Save and trying to get the word out and getting them to sign up. And it was somewhat successful, not as much as we thought it would be, but it was successful. That was grant funding through US EPA. So, I mean, it is possible. At one time, the planning department had 10 people in it, including the people that Grant hired for that project. And
Mm,
now it's just me and half-time person, so it's gonna be hard
Wow.
to do.
wow.
And in fact, this was this was Carol Collins, her job, first job in Greenfield was to head up this effort. I think it was the
Mhm.
second year of the project or something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, because when I filed to make us the first green community, I hired Carol and she implemented that, and then there was more money, and so then we got the other grant, so she moved over to that. Then she was elevated to a department head, and so we got somebody else to finish the grant, but it was a fairly
That's
decent
awesome.
grant, and it did increase people signing up at Mass Save a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's gonna take something like that to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the workshops Green and Greenfield put on are probably very helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any grants for homeowners or landlords or for that kind of stuff around here?
Well, that's what the Mass Save Program and the Inflation Reduction Act have
Mass
had.
Save is so-so, at least in my personal experience, they have not been that helpful, but
Just recently, I don't know if you tried it recently, but there's a lot of new aspects to it that's worth checking out again if you haven't in the last year. So,
yeah.
but then the Inflation Reduction Act has additional funds available. Yeah.
George?
Nancy, were you indicating that it seems like the person who's going to be in Carol's role will have an additional public outreach component to the job description?
It sounds that way. Yes, the word residence is in there.
So
Okay.
one potential action we could put in there would be to get an update from the new person about those kind of efforts or initiatives.
Yeah.
Great idea. Thank you.
Great. Sorry,
We're all
no, I'm so
watching.
sorry.
No, it's like, you're gonna be-
Okay. All right. So we're gonna keep going, and I will just say Nancy and George and Marlo with the screen share, I can't see all three of you, so please do feel free to just talk when you need to.
Thank you.
So CSO expansion of shelter affordable units, which I feel also goes with housing the
I was
homeless.
gonna say, these next two
Yeah.
are the same.
Yeah,
So-
certainly.
That's happening.
There are advancements there.
They're, I think everyone probably knows, they're gonna be moving from Wells, or they're gonna be temporarily relocating from Wells while Wells Street goes under construction. It'll be expanded, so more units, plus some permanent residences on site, I believe.
Yes.
So I think both 22 and 23 are happening and overlap. I don't really understand the difference between the two, but.
Great. George and Nancy, these two items are yours. Anything else that you wanted to add to this or have? Okay.
No.
Great. Upper story residential development. This is a huge one.
Well, Wilson's redevelopment project
Yes.
is happening.
Yeah.
That definitely helps implement that.
Yeah.
And there's another Main Street upper level residential development that we're trying to make happen.
Trying to make happen.
So-
Yeah, I think I was also talking with a property owner the other day, and he mentioned getting more help from the city potentially on available funds for code upgrades specifically, and potentially bringing property owners together with one another if their buildings abut, and seeing if there's possibility to improve things kind of in tandem, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
And we were having a conversation sort of with my GBA hat on, but I do feel like SJIC also can maybe be helpful in some of that, because I do think there's a desire and an interest there from property owners, but they either don't all know or don't all want to take the lead on finding some of that funding. And code improvement specifically can be hard to find funding for. But he had a feeling that a lot of it were code challenges, code upgrade challenges.
Definitely agree.
So how could this committee be helpful, Hannah?
I think for me, it's a lot about, I think, the knowledge that we have on this committee, having multiple representatives from the city, and knowing kind of what's underway already, and then communicating that outward. So, the GBA is happy to be part of that communication outward. And if maybe for this committee, it's more just bringing that knowledge to the table here. Maybe it's more about city and GBA than it is about SGIC, but this is the place where I get like all the city representatives at once.
No worries, Marlo.
No worries.
What did he say yesterday?
His camera's off because he's having bandwidth issues.
I have,
Yeah,
are you finished? I've thought.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Wondering.
This takes me back to the discussion that Carol and Phil were researching a possible outside speaker.
Yeah.
Phil sent us a memo about that, and I did chat with him about it before he took off for his vacation. And so I would say one of the things, when you bring up things like zoning changes, and the one thing about Phil's memo and from Carol also that I never quite understood is what is the purpose and goal of, if you got an expert to come in to talk about something, exactly what do you want them to talk about and what is the goal of that person? But my sense of it is it was to create expose people to what's possible. Like, so I would say zoning around stuff, in downtown. So would you go to a zone, could you excite people about the idea of changing our zoning so that our downtown could be more densely populated? That's a tough one, we don't usually, we run into barriers when we try to do that kind of thing. So I think something that SGIC could do, if we chose to, is to follow through on that idea of bringing an expert in to bring ideas, exciting ideas, and have discussion. And the Conway School thing might bring that also, but it would be different. I think this was more like, bring a well-known person who could get us all energized about what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I deal with zoning, so I'm gonna defend the zoning of the city. I think our zoning ordinance is very progressive compared to a lot of communities, even more progressive than Northampton in some ways. And the two things that are stopping downtown from being what we envision has nothing to do with zoning. It has to do with the code issues of the buildings that you referenced, and it has to do with unrealistic landlords and their expectations. Those are the two biggest things stopping downtown from really becoming what we envision it, way over zoning. Zoning's already in place. We don't require parking. You can do shared parking. We allow upper story development. All the things that communities like Hyannis took years to do that after we've done it, are already done in our zoning. So our zoning is pretty good. It could be tweaked, it could be better, but green infrastructure is one thing we could do, requiring the buildings to have that. But those are the two reasons that downtown isn't developed as we wish. And the code issues is a tough one. These buildings have to come up to code. If there's so much money spent on them, the rehab is over a certain percentage, then you must bring the whole building into conformity with code. That's the largest issue. And I was gonna ask you, Amy, a question.
Yeah.
We have done the housing rehab program, but it's more for single-family homes. And we are doing a facade improvement program. We've done it in the past. Now you're reinvigorating that. is there any way to use community development block grant funds for low or mod type of small businesses that could benefit from our code upgrades?
Potentially. Now's a great time for us to look into that because we're in the process of planning for the 24 ask. So yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Because that's the biggest source of funding we have, and that, you know, if we could somehow get these small businesses help to upgrade their buildings, or the building owners, actually, it's probably not even the businesses within them being the tenants, it's more the business owner, I mean, the land owner, so that's more difficult, but it's just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into it. There's a piece of me that doesn't think it's possible, but I'm gonna look into it before I bring down the party vibe.
This is Nancy again.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Eric, for explaining that. What I'm reminded of, what came to my brain was, this concept of, is it called form-based codes or something, which is a whole different approach that is more like, this is what we want, rather than this is a stick and you can't have this, or something like that. Is there any purpose or value in moving in that direction?
Based on my experience with form-based code, it's usually the larger cities, Seattle's, Portland's, and Boston's of the world that are looking at that. There are smaller communities that have done form-based code. A city like Greenfield, where the downtown buildings are here, they've been here for 150 years, 200 years. You know, we see what happens when the building comes down. Do we see a new one going up? Not likely. Like the First National Bank, is there something going to replace that? In between those buildings, there used to be buildings. Was there a building that replaced that? No. So we want them to be replaced, and the form-based code could be used for that purpose, infill development. But in terms of just overall development happening currently and the way Greenfield's already structured as a city, it doesn't, I don't see it working or needing to work in Greenfield. It's a whole new concept of zoning that I just don't feel appropriate for Greenfield.
And I'm remembering some small town, wow, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago now, Eric, that we had a similar conversation, and I sent you an example of a small town at our size or smaller that used it to good advantage, but I'd have to rack my brain or maybe you still have that.
And that could be, I think it was community out east. Wasn't it a community out east?
Yes, yeah. It was
Yeah,
in the
and
part of the
probably
state.
with high development pressure and, you know, people
Okay.
that would put up a new building. And so you do want form-based code, but I don't see that happening in Greenfield.
Well, although there's a huge housing pressure in Greenfield because of climate change and COVID, and so I don't know. I think we're either going to run out of space to put houses in, or we're going to need to change our code so that we can build more densely. And I know that's a very unpopular opinion, but I guess since I come from New York City, I'm not frightened of dense
More homes.
populations, and that in fact it's what makes a community walkable and really vibrant, is getting more bodies down, as close to downtown as possible. And certainly the Wilson building, having that many apartments that's going to be in it, is going to be certainly a step in the right direction.
That will help. I definitely think that's a role SGIC can play, is being out there talking about the importance of that project. It definitely needs a lot of voice, I think, in addition to action. All right, I want to keep us moving. Nancy, are you all right if we go past abandoned homes at the moment, under kind of
I'm okay with that.
bumping that in with?
I would love to see some memo put in there about the idea of bringing an outside speaker to us.
Yes.
Inspire us all to do something different downtown.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Put it in here.
Yeah.
Would that be for us or for the general public, you think?
Yeah.
For the
Yes.
general public.
Do we ever, how do we promote things? Just on our webpage?
So,
Facebook, some
Like, I was gonna
webpage.
say, are we on social media? Cause I could see us like doing some sort of, general outreach, like, here's a monthly update, or like even putting out like
Yeah.
a little baby newsletter to be like, this is like, focus on a different area of the master plan every month, or what, just like one update that's happening to share out with the community, or like if there's an event.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea. We do have social media. We're not active on it.
Be active on it.
What?
I said, I'm happy to be active.
Yeah,
If someone gives me content to post, I will gladly be active on it.
Question on the abandoned homes and homes taken for taxes, move them into the private sector for rehab. I mean, currently that is already being done.
Right, we work with the
Okay.
AG's office
Yeah.
to take properties, rehab them and put them back into.
great.
So you can say that we're working with the Massachusetts AG's office to accomplish that.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I think, the idea of like a newsletter, social media, public meetings, is something that we were really on before COVID and we've not circled back to. And I think that that would be amazing to circle back to, whether that is sort of creating a plan, having someone lead it. I do think there's a space for that. So I don't know if that's something maybe we put on an agenda for the next meeting to talk more about, because I think if you feel like you have time and energy around it, I would love to see us get back to some of that. We had a lot of momentum.
These are SGIC specific accounts?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no shortage of activity on the local social media pages. So
Oh my God, it's
give-
nuts.
Give them some more,
Be ready. But it is, I mean, one thing that we did, just before COVID happened, literally in February, was that the SGIC thing or was that the other panel? Positively Greenfield was another Facebook page, and I think it still exists and is running, that was created specifically to like get into the social media space and be really positive about Greenfield. And they gained such a following and so much traction. I haven't looked at it in a minute because I'm not really on Facebook anymore, but for a while, it really was just like such a sort of activist-y stance to take about, I mean, every town struggles, I think, with negativity in social media, but Greenfield really, I think, has a lot of it. And so I think if SJIC is another voice, another positive voice and sharing things, and communicating about what's underway with the city, with different organizations, I do think there's room for that, and that
we
would
could
be.
even
really
do like
great.
little features on like some of these other
Mhm.
people that are, that we're
Yeah.
referencing, who are
Yeah.
taking action.
Absolutely,
I have a question.
absolutely, yeah.
Who managed the web page of the implementation committee?
Uh,
Who manages that?
I think it goes through Justin in what was Carol's
Yeah,
office.
just, okay.
It
Good.
was sitting with Christian in the Economic Development Office after Lori left Carol's office.
Yeah.
But I believe it's transferred back.
Do you know if that's?
I believe that Christian does not manage it. I'd have.
Okay.
no clue what Justin does.
Yeah, I think Justin
We'll check
is
with,
currently
because
managing
the
it.
webpage is a good option too. And
Yeah,
we at least should post our agendas and meeting minutes on there so people can see what we're
Yes.
doing.
I thought that was being done, so that's something that I need to follow up with and,
But someone would
Yeah.
have to have password and admin rights to get in the website and edit it.
yeah, that should be Justin.
And that'd probably be Justin. So I'll reach out to him, see if he is gonna do that, and then
Okay.
work something out with him that either he or I would do that.
Okay,
So that at least our agendas and meeting minutes are online, and anything else, flyers about events get posted on there too.
And I
yeah,
would say if right now he's feeling underwater because of
Oh,
current
yeah.
circumstances, that I'm sure Christian can put up minutes and agendas and all of that. So
That'd be great.
reach out to us.
Because the
if he's
capability's
dying.
there on the website to do it.
yeah. That's great. All right, I'm gonna make myself a really quick note about the agenda for next time to talk more about our public presence. Okay. All right. So plans for restoring Highland Trails, all include in that park access, Highland Pond. I think all of this is a question of, kind of open spaces, public spaces, recreation, and kind of what our role is in a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very specific, this was our former member's pet project, this
Yeah,
particular one.
yes.
But more zooming out a bit, I think this just goes back to the open space plan that we talked about
Yeah.
and the need for an open space committee or, some type
Mm-hmm.
of group that's pushing that. It's a great plan. We
Right,
just need somebody or some group that's working on pushing its implementation
right.
is my thought. And I know there's been mayoral resistance to the open space committee, but we
Yeah.
have an election, so.
Yeah, what I can say is that both mayors, former Mayor William Martin and the current mayor were against another standing committee.
Right.
They wanted to be ad hoc every time we updated the open space and recreation plan. But I have to say, in terms of city staff and who implements a plan relative to their department, no one beats Christy Moore.
Yeah.
Don't even need an
Amazing.
open space committee. She is the committee. That's her life. She's already on this trail thing, so she's on it. We should just
Yeah.
get her to come here and give us an update.
That's a
Wow.
great idea.
Yeah. Wait, is her focus strictly on the rec side of it or the open space side as well?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, she looks at that implementation 7-year action plan and does everything and checks it off and
Oh,
tries to
great.
implement every single thing in the plan.
Oh,
she's a
good.
machine.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And that's well, anyway, we don't have to go open space committee again. I'm making a note of, Chrissy Moore potentially being a guest to one of our SGIC meetings to get an update from her, because I do think that would be very valuable. And I would especially love for her to meet, did you say you have met Christy already? Excellent, because there's so much there.
And I guess I'll just go back to the point that I've harped on a few times is that it is a top listed we are here to implement
Yes.
this plan, and it is listed in the plan to create an open space committee. So I know there's been mayoral resistance, but
Yeah.
it seems like something we should continue to work on to actually implement the plan.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, I agree. So, and there is an election. If the
Yeah.
new mayor is here, we can ask her, if she gets reelected, we can ask her again.
yeah,
yeah,
And if she says no, there's nothing we can do. Mayor's the top dog. But if there's a new mayor and they're open for it, then we can try to push it.
yeah,
Yep.
okay,
I think it would be great to get Christie's perspective on how that such a committee could supplement the work that the rec department does.
okay, that's great.
So
So
I
perhaps
think
in the-
I like the idea of having her as a guest.
Yeah, okay,
Sounds like a good idea.
okay,
I will say that most communities do have a standing open space committee. We
Right.
don't.
yeah,
right.
yeah. Okay,
These next few, maybe I'll have the same notes
Right.
in this action box. Might be the same for
Okay.
these next few.
Ibid, great,
Yeah, the one on Restore Island Pond for summer winter recreation.
yeah,
Want to just merge those cells?
yeah,
Testing my Excel.
It's the up near the square, up near the paint.
Near
Yeah.
It's the one right next to it, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you can just hit the button.
I can just hit the button.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to come to my office. Questions for
very
you.
nice.
Don't get
Excellent.
into formatting it, because you can also like get it in the.
I was
center of the
about
box.
to. Why not? That's
You see the
disgusting.
down arrow?
Yes, no,
No.
I was gonna get there right on my own, but thank you.
You're so good.
No, really not. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Skill.
Excellent.
I do have a comment on that.
Yes.
Restore Highland Pond for summer and winter
Oh, yes,
recreation.
yes.
What is the committee's thoughts on that? My thought is, because I went out there and talking about dredging, talking about having ice skating on there and, that's great and stuff, but, I'm an environmentalist, conservationist, and, I personally believe that Highland Pond should be left to the wildlife and with no human involvement. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know how the rest of you feel.
Great question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
if
would
I
have to
could.
look into a little more of those chapters.
Say that, Marlo?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So the Highland Pond, the dredging thing, Counselor Elmer and I have had many discussions, many meetings the last 2 years on this. I think this was his proposal. And he's actually worked really hard on a less invasive full dredging of the pond that's been talked about for years. Like the aeration, that'll help slow down the invasive weeds. And then there's like a rake type dredging they do now that doesn't completely just tear the whole pond up and dredge it. So him and I have been in a discussion on less destructive ways of getting folks to skate on it again. I'm not completely sold on the new ways, but just for the committee that Councilor Elmer and I do a lot of discussion and are working on this on the side. So
Okay.
Thank you for the update.
And I'll ask you, Marlo, having walked by there a couple of times recently, I was struck with all of the the surface is absolutely covered with green growth, algae, I guess, and my untrained perspective was it didn't look very healthy, and I wondered if you could speak to that for a second.
yeah, I mean that's the duckweed and everything else has completely taken that pond over. I said I had I was a little skeptical on the new ways of doing things. In my history, and you go back in the day, us putting machinery on that ice to keep it clear as it's from when it snows from start to finish, because you have to. I don't really see paths getting us there. You're still going to have edges that'll never freeze, so on and so forth. But I'm right there with you, George. I mean, I think we're beyond. It's actually it's back to its natural state at this point, a pond. So.
Isn't it dammed?
Actually,
It's not dammed. There's a culvert pipe at a certain height, I believe.
Oh, I
Yes.
see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it does have a dam. I mean, there's a culvert pipe that goes through the dam.
Yeah, but it controls the height of the pond.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But it's not completely natural, if you will.
Right. The natural would be
Well,
to remove the dam.
I think Erica would tell you it's in its natural state when it comes to conservation or anyone else right now. So
yes, it's called eutrophication, and that's what's happening at the pond. It's a natural process. But just the idea of humans, even if you did this new technology, just humans on the ice all winter, just leave at least part of nature to nature. This is my philosophy.
Get an ice, like a temporary ice rink, like they do outside like the casino or something.
Well, and Beacon Field,
Beacon
they put
Field
up
would
those
do
ice
that,
fields.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Oh,
That's all you need. Why disrupt nature when we can just use
Yeah.
this thing?
Right.
It also does it even get cold?
yeah, well
Yeah,
that
I
triggered
I
up.
can't remember the last time I ice skated on a natural. It's so sad. It breaks my heart, but what are we gonna do?
I know.
Yeah,
Well, that's
There's
what triggered
also-
us buying. This triggered us buying 2 rinks that we put up and take down every year. We have 2 of them. We've only been putting one up. Winters haven't been able to support them, unfortunately, with enough cold weather. So high maintenance, but it's an alternative to give the skating to the community. So, I'm a little partial to a Highland Pond too. I grew up skating on that thing, playing hockey. So, not to age myself, but
Marlo, the other human activity it appears that happens there is fishing. Is that
Yes.
is it in a condition that can be fished at this point? I didn't get that impression. Or that it would be healthy for
honestly,
the fish.
my son is 19. It's probably been 14, 15 years since I've been down there when I used to take him down there. So I don't really know. I hear there's still small fish in there. So, but I don't really know, honestly.
Mhm.
I see people fishing. I walk by it all the time and I see people fishing on occasion. And as far as the skating goes, to be perfectly honest, it scares me to death, the idea of people skating on it because of the climate change and the temperature, fluctuates. And do you feel like the ice is safe? Who's going to decide it's safe? I don't know.
Well, the other piece, I'm with you, Nancy, because we can't even get the man-made rinks we have to freeze. And if you have any kind of organics in that pond, it's going to be even tougher. It generates heat, as we know. So the other piece of it is staffing. We used to have to staff that with 4 people from snowstorm start to finish. So that's the other factor. In the equipment, you only put equipment that's so heavy on that. So it is a really high maintenance thing in the winter to maintain.
I'd almost prefer to have a sign saying no ice skating.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's
Only for protected
Seems
lot.
like a liability to me.
Yeah.
you
Hannah?
know it's in the
No.
community. You could split it down the middle. You have a lot of advocates to make it what it used to be and a lot of advocates to leave it alone. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, right down the middle somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hannah,
And
though
then actual dredging, I think it was probably 10 years ago, it was approximately $10 million with permitting and the whole 9 yards. So
Oh, wow.
my guess, I'll go out on a limb and say we're near 20 now.
Wow.
Very
Right,
costly
maybe we'll-
endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hannah?
If the permitting would even go through. That's the
Yeah.
Hannah?
Yes, sir.
I abandoned my facilitation duties tonight, but I will serve as timekeeper. It's
Yeah.
6:26, just to let you
I'm
know.
aware. Thank you so much. Yep. So, I guess we will return to this again.
Do we want to do the last item under this category? Or is there anything to say?
Sidewalks and,
Sidewalks and benches. Street
oh, it is. It's the last,
safety.
it's the last with the natural resources.
Is this happening?
All that's being done.
Yeah, I think all of that is being done with the Main Street redesign.
And complete streets.
And complete
all the
streets.
sidewalks and the tree planting
Yeah.
program of the DPW
Great.
and tree committee, all that stuff's happening.
Amazing.
We can kick off.
All right, good call. Yes, positive note. All right, so, in our last, 3 minutes, any announcements that folks need to make before we adjourn? Do you want to leave room for that? Okay, amazing. So our next meeting is Thursday, October 26th. Greta did help me realize that I had, the last time I recreated the calendar invite, I forgot to add everyone. So everyone should now have a calendar invite so that those are on everyone's calendar, but it is the 4th Thursday of the month. Next month, I believe we should be in John's On, but I will double check on that. So
Do folks know how to use the technology to make it hybrid at John's On?
in the big room, we do. There's not technology in the small rooms. That's what we ran into last month, but
Big room is about 10 times harder than this to get going.
oh, fun. Okay. Well, we have a month to figure that. Christian definitely knows, so maybe Anna can punt it to him. But thank you everyone for making quorum tonight and for diving into this spreadsheet. I really want to be done with it, but it leads us to such great conversation. So, I think we came out with some good agenda items looking forward. Our public facing, yes, Marlo.
So I'm sorry. We actually received a pretty huge grant about 2 weeks ago. The Swiffer grant. I don't know how many.
Oh, yes.
What is it?
But if you could lock me in for about 10 minutes next month, I'll have more information on it.
Sure.
In short, it's Swiffer Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling Grant. We're
Yes.
awarded $2.05 million to replace our vehicles and go single stream. There's a lot to it. We don't have the contract finalized with EPA, but a lot of good information I'll have on that coming forth.
Yeah.
So if I could have a few minutes next month to fill everyone in, that would be great.
Okay. Okay. Great. We have a pretty full agenda next month. Would people like Christy Moore to be invited next month, or are we sort of tagging that as a future thing and we want to keep trying to get through this priority spreadsheet? I'm happy to go either way. I'm happy to leave it behind.
Maybe not next month. Maybe we can delve into this a little further and then
Okay.
invite Christy in a couple of months or something.
Okay.
But what do folks
I
think?
love it. I know October is also
Sounds
crazy
good.
for her, so she probably would be like, no.
I know it's
Sounds good.
for her in January with the Winter Carnival too, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe
work with
after
her
that.
On all her stuff, so.
yeah.
Perfect.
We'll find a good time. All right. Motion to adjourn. Oh,
So
Nancy's
moved.
like, bye. Okay.
Good night,
Cool.
everyone.
That's a vote for
Did
you.
someone make a motion to adjourn? Marlo made a motion. I
Second.
think George seconded,
Okay,
Eric
George seconded,
seconded,
yeah.
everybody seconded. Thank you all so much.
Right, good night.
Very
Take care,
effective.
everyone.
Bye.